AITA for refusing to gift my apartment to my sister as her wedding present because my parents say my job is just stating the obvious about rain? Posted in r/relationships. I, 30M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm sitting in my apartment right now watching the city lights through my floor-to-ceiling windows, and I genuinely don't know if I'm the crazy one or if my family has lost their minds. For context, I'm a meteorologist for WXTN-7, one of the major network affiliates in our metropolitan area. I've been doing this for 6 years now. I have a master's degree in atmospheric science. I spent 4 years in smaller markets before landing this position. I work overnight shifts, early morning shifts, holiday coverage, whatever the station needs. During severe weather events, I'm the one in the studio for hours, sometimes days, tracking storm systems, issuing warnings, and trying to keep people safe. Last month, we had a tornado outbreak that spawned 3 confirmed tornadoes in our viewing area. I was on air for 14 hours straight. We got footage after the fact of a family sheltering in their bathroom because they saw my warning 20 minutes before the tornado hit their neighborhood. The mom sent an email to the station saying they'd still be in their living room watching TV if I hadn't broken in with the emergency coverage. Their house took a direct hit. The living room was gone. They survived because of that warning. I tell you this not to brag, but because you need to understand what I do and why what my parents said hurt so much. My sister Megan, 26F, is an event planner. She's good at it, I'll give her that. She coordinates corporate events, charity galas, and weddings for wealthy clients. She makes good money and has built a real business. I'm genuinely proud of her success. But here's the thing. My entire life, my parents, 58M, 56F, have treated Megan like she hung the moon and stars while treating me like I'm barely worth acknowledging. Growing up, Megan was the creative one who brings joy to people's lives. I was just there. Average. Unremarkable. When I got into a competitive meteorology program, my dad said, "So you're going to be a weatherman? Like the guys who are wrong half the time." When I graduated with honors, my mom spent the entire graduation dinner talking about how Megan had just landed her first big corporate client. When I got my job at WXTN-7, my dad asked, "Do they really need to go to school for that? Can't anyone just look outside and tell you if it's going to rain?" I've learned to live with it. I've built my own life, my own identity separate from them. And 3 years ago, I bought my apartment. It's a 2-bedroom corner unit on the 34th floor of a building downtown. It has panoramic windows facing east and south, giving me an unobstructed view of the skyline and, more importantly for my work, the sky. I can see weather systems rolling in from my living room. I've set up a small home weather station on my balcony. This apartment is my sanctuary, my workspace, my everything. I saved for years, lived frugally, and put down a substantial down payment. It's mine. Megan got engaged 8 months ago to her boyfriend Derek, 28M. I was happy for her. I offered to help however I could. I figured I'd give them a nice gift, maybe help with some costs. Then 2 weeks ago, I went to my parents' house for what I thought was a casual Sunday dinner. It wasn't. My parents, Megan, and Derek were all waiting for me with what I can only describe as an expectant energy. My mom was practically vibrating with excitement. My dad had that look he gets when he thinks he's about to be clever. "We've been talking," my mom started, "and we've come up with a perfect solution for Megan and Derek's housing situation." Megan and Derek currently rent a small apartment. They've been talking about buying but haven't been able to save enough for a down payment in this market. "Marcus," my dad said, using my full name like I was 8 years old, "we think you should gift your apartment to Megan and Derek as a wedding present." I actually laughed. I thought they were joking. They weren't. "Think about it," my mom continued, as if she hadn't just asked me to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. "Megan creates special days for people. She brings joy and magic into the world. She makes unforgettable moments happen. And you? Well, honey, you just state the obvious about rain." "Captain Obvious," my dad chimed in, using the nickname they've had for me since I was in college. "That's what we call you, remember? You tell people what they can see out the window. Megan creates experiences. It just makes sense that she should have the nicer living space." I looked at Megan, waiting for her to say something. To tell our parents this was insane. Instead, she was nodding along, already looking at Derek with excitement. "It really would be perfect," Megan said. "The view would be amazing for hosting clients. I could throw intimate dinner parties, networking events. It would really elevate my brand." "And where would I live?" I asked, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. "You could rent somewhere," my mom said dismissively. "Or maybe get a small place in the suburbs. You don't need a view, Marcus. You just go to work, read the weather, and come home. Megan actually uses her space to create. I left. I didn't say goodbye, didn't argue, didn't explain. I just stood up and walked out. Since then, I've received 47 text messages from my mother ranging from, "Let's talk about this rationally," to, "You're being selfish and petty," 12 voicemails from my father lecturing me about family duty, and how I owe Megan for all the time she's made our family look good, 3 Instagram messages from Megan with photos of my apartment's view saying, "This could be our morning coffee spot," smiling face with hearts. An email from Derek explaining that they've already started telling friends about their new place, and I need to stop being difficult. My mom called me last night and said, "You save lives? Marcus, please. You tell people to bring an umbrella. Megan creates memories that last a lifetime. You need to accept that her work matters more than reading a teleprompter." I hung up on her. I keep thinking about that family in the bathroom. About the 14-hour shifts during tornado outbreaks. About the flash flood warning I issued 3 years ago that led to a school district delaying dismissal by an hour. An hour where a kid would have been walking home on a road that was under 3 feet of water. But maybe my family is right. Maybe I am just stating the obvious. Maybe I don't deserve what I've built. I don't even know why I'm posting this. I guess I just need someone to tell me I'm not crazy. Or maybe I am, and I need to hear that too. AITA. Edit. I went to work tonight and had to do the 11 p.m. broadcast. I stood in front of that green screen and talked about an incoming cold front, and I almost couldn't get the words out. One of my colleagues asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I don't think she believed me. Update 1. 2 weeks later. I didn't expect my original post to get the response it did. I've read every comment, every message. I'm sorry I couldn't respond to everyone individually, but please know that each word meant something to me. Several people suggested therapy, recognizing patterns of abuse, setting boundaries, things I'd never really considered before. Something happened at work that I need to share. 3 days after my original post, I was in the studio prepping for my morning segment. I was off. I knew I was off. My timing was wrong, my energy was flat, and I kept losing my place in the forecast. After the broadcast, my news director Valerie called me into her office. Valerie is in her mid-50s and has been in broadcasting for 30 years. She's seen everything and everyone. She's also, as I was about to learn, incredibly perceptive. "Close the door," she said. "Sit down. Talk." I tried to deflect. Told her I was just tired. She didn't buy it. "Marcus, I've watched you track supercells at 3 in the morning with more energy than most people have after a full night's sleep. I've seen you explain atmospheric pressure to a room full of schoolchildren like it was the most exciting thing in the world. Something is wrong, and it's affecting your work. More importantly, it's affecting you. So talk." I don't know why I told her everything. Maybe because she was the first person in weeks who seemed to actually see me. But I told her, about my parents, about Captain Obvious, about the apartment, all of it. I was embarrassed. I'm a grown man crying in his boss's office about his family calling him names. Valerie was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "My brother was the golden child. My parents paid for his education, his wedding, his house down payment. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. When I graduated top of my class, my mother asked why I couldn't have chosen a real career like my brother's accounting job. I was 40 years old before I understood that I'd spent my entire life believing I was less valuable as a human being because my family taught me that." She pulled a business card from her desk drawer. "This is Dr. Patricia Holbrook. She specializes in what's called scapegoat syndrome, family dynamics where one child is consistently devalued while another is elevated. I've been seeing her for 6 years. I'm giving you this card not as your boss, but as someone who recognizes the look on your face because I used to see it in the mirror." I took the card. I made the appointment. I've now had 4 sessions with Dr. Holbrook. The first session, I spent most of it explaining why my family wasn't really that bad, why I was probably overreacting, why I didn't want to seem like I was playing victim. Dr. Holbrook just listened. The second session, she asked me to describe a time I felt proud of my work and how my family responded. I told her about the tornado outbreak, about the family in the bathroom, about the email from the mother who said I'd saved their lives. Then she asked how my parents responded when I told them. I never told them. "Why not?" she asked. "Because they wouldn't care," I said. "They'd find a way to minimize it or change the subject to something Megan did." "And how did you know that before it happened?" "Because it always happens." "Marcus," she said gently, "that's not a prediction. That's a pattern. You've learned through 30 years of experience exactly how your family will treat you. That learning didn't come from nowhere. It came from consistent, repeated devaluation. That's not you being sensitive. That's you accurately reading a system that has been telling you the same thing your entire life. I cried. I cried for a long time. We've since discussed establishing boundaries with my family. Dr. Holbrook helped me understand that I don't owe anyone an explanation for my boundaries. I don't have to convince my parents I deserve my own apartment. I don't have to prove my career has value. Those things are true regardless of whether my family acknowledges them. I've gone low contact. I responded to my mother's texts with a single message: I will not be giving away my apartment. This topic is closed. If you cannot accept that, I will need space from this relationship. She responded with 4 paragraphs about how I was tearing the family apart. I didn't reply. Megan reached out once more, this time with a different approach. She sent me a long message about how she didn't realize the apartment meant so much to me, and how she was willing to compromise by letting me stay in the guest room for a few months while I found a new place. I didn't respond to that either. The weather has been active lately. We've had multiple severe weather events, and I've been in the studio more than usual. Last week, during a particularly intense storm system, I issued a tornado warning for a county at the edge of our viewing area. The tornado touched down, and thanks to the warning, the only injuries were minor. After that broadcast, I received an email from a viewer. Mr. Thompson, you probably don't remember, but you came to my son's school 3 years ago to talk about weather safety. My son has been obsessed with meteorology ever since. Tonight, when the sirens went off, he was the one who got our whole family into the basement because Mr. Marcus said the basement is the safest place. We're all safe because my 9-year-old listened to you. Thank you for what you do. I printed that email. It's on my refrigerator. Valerie saw me reading it in the break room and smiled. Captain Obvious saving lives again? I laughed for the first time in weeks. Update 2-3 months later. The wedding happened. I wasn't invited. Well, that's not entirely accurate. I received a save the date 7 months ago, but after I refused to surrender my apartment, the formal invitation never came. I found out later that my parents told extended family I was going through something and couldn't make it. The wedding was at a historic estate venue that Megan had booked through her event planning connections. From what I've pieced together from social media and a cousin who still talks to me, it was elaborate. Ice sculptures. A 12-piece orchestra. A custom-designed cake that cost more than some people's monthly rent. A fireworks display at the end. It also cost $80,000. My parents contributed significantly, as did Derek's parents. But according to my cousin, there was also a substantial amount put on credit cards, with the assumption that things would work out and their finances would come together after the wedding. I watched the sunset from my apartment that night. I'd considered going out, doing something to distract myself, but ultimately, I just sat in my living room with the lights off and watched the sky change colors. Dr. Holbrook and I had discussed this day in our sessions, how I might feel, how I could process any grief or guilt or even relief that might come up. What I felt, mostly, was tired. Tired of being angry, tired of being hurt, tired of waiting for my family to see me. I'd spent 30 years auditioning for a role I was never going to get. That night, I think I finally understood that I could stop auditioning. The weeks after the wedding brought news. My cousin, the one who still talks to me, called to catch me up. The honeymoon had been to Italy. 2 weeks in Tuscany and the Amalfi Coast, all booked before the wedding budget was finalized. When Derek and Megan returned, they came home to the reality of their financial situation. Combined, they had over $40,000 in wedding debt across multiple credit cards. Derek, it turned out, had taken on additional credit obligations that Megan hadn't known about. A new car purchased 6 months before the wedding, a surprise that now added another $600 per month to their expenses. Their rent was increasing in 3 months. Megan's event planning business, while successful, was seasonal, and they were heading into the slow months. They'd been married for 6 weeks when they had their first major fight about money. By month 2, Derek was sleeping on the couch more often than not. I want to be clear here, I don't take pleasure in this. I don't. Despite everything, Megan is my sister, and I don't want her to suffer. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small, exhausted part of me that wanted to scream, this is what happens when you expect the world to give you things you haven't earned. Dr. Holbrook helped me work through those feelings. They're valid, she said. They're also complicated. I can simultaneously feel vindicated and sad. I can be angry at my sister's entitlement while still loving her. Emotions aren't binary. Update 3, 4.5 months later. My cousin called me on a Tuesday night. I was at the station, reviewing models for a potential winter storm system, when my phone buzzed. "Megan's in therapy," she said without preamble. I didn't know how to respond to that. "Okay," I finally managed. "Not marriage counseling." "Well, that too. But she's seeing someone individually. It's been about 6 weeks now." "Good for her," I said, and I meant it. Therapy had helped me enormously. I genuinely hoped it would help her too. "Marcus." My cousin paused. "She's been asking about you. Not asking for anything. Just asking how you are. If you're okay." That surprised me. In all the months of silence, Megan hadn't reached out. No messages demanding I reconsider, no angry voicemails about how I'd ruined her wedding by not giving her my apartment. Just silence. I'd assumed she'd written me off entirely. "I don't know what to do with that information," I admitted. "I know. I just thought you should have it." 2 weeks later, Megan texted me. Not a demand. Not a manipulation. Just, "I know I don't deserve your time. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. I'm sorry, Marcus. For everything." I stared at that message for 3 days before I replied. "I'm not ready yet. But thank you for saying that." Her response came within minutes. "I understand. Whenever you're ready. Or never. That's okay too. I just needed you to know." Dr. Holbrook and I discussed it extensively. She helped me understand that I wasn't obligated to forgive Megan or reconcile with her. She also helped me see that if I chose to, that didn't make me weak or foolish. It made me someone making a conscious choice about what kind of relationships I wanted in my life. The winter storm I'd been tracking turned into a significant event. We had 18 inches of snow over 36 hours, plus dangerous wind chills. I was in the studio for extended coverage, including a segment where I demonstrated how quickly frostbite can occur in extreme conditions. The segment went viral locally. The station said it was one of the most watched weather segments they'd ever produced. That night, after the storm had passed and I was finally heading home, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I just watched your frostbite segment. I had no idea the science was so complex. You explained it so clearly. Is this really what you do every day?" It was Megan. She'd gotten a new phone number. "Yeah," I replied. "This is what I do. I'm starting to realize I never actually knew what you did. I'm sorry for that too." Final update. 6 months later. I'm writing this from my apartment. It's early morning, around 4 a.m., and I just got home from covering an overnight severe weather event. A line of strong thunderstorms moved through around midnight, and I was on air providing continuous updates. Everyone stayed safe. The damage was minimal because people were prepared. It's been 6 months since my original post. A lot has changed. My parents and I remain largely estranged. They've made a few attempts at contact, but they've never acknowledged what they did or apologized for it. Every message is some variation of, "Let's move past this," or, "You're being too sensitive." Dr. Holbrook helped me understand that reconciliation without accountability isn't reconciliation, it's just suppression. I've chosen not to engage until they can genuinely recognize the harm they caused. That may never happen, and I've made peace with that possibility. Megan is a different story. She reached out formally about 3 months ago, asking if we could meet. Not at our parents' house. Not for a family event. Just the two of us, at a neutral location. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I was nervous, more nervous than I'd expected. I'd spent so long building walls, protecting myself from the hurt that always seemed to come from my family. Sitting across from Megan felt like inviting that hurt back in. But the person who sat down across from me wasn't the sister I'd known my whole life. Megan looked tired. Not just physically, though the stress of her financial situation and marital struggles was evident, but emotionally tired. The kind of tired that comes from doing hard internal work. "I want to start by saying something," she began, her voice unsteady. "And I need you to let me finish before you respond, because if I don't say it all at once, I might not get it out." I nodded. My whole life, I believed things about our family that I'm now realizing weren't true. I believed I was special. I believed I deserved special things. I believed that Mom and Dad treating me differently was because I was different, better, somehow. And I believed that you were less than. That your work was less than. That you were less than. She was crying now. Not dramatically, just tears running silently down her face. "I never questioned it, Marcus. Not once. Mom and Dad would call you Captain Obvious, and I would laugh because it was funny and normal, and that's just what we did. They would dismiss your career, and I would think, well, Yeah, he just tells people about the weather. I never stopped to think about what that meant. About what you actually do. About what it must have felt like to work so hard and achieve so much and have your own family tell you it didn't matter. She took a shaky breath. When I asked for your apartment, when I thought that was a reasonable thing to ask, I wasn't being malicious. I genuinely believed I deserved it more than you did. Because that's what I'd been taught my whole life. That I deserved more. That you deserved less. And that's so incredibly messed up that I can barely say it out loud. She looked at me directly for the first time. I never valued your work, Marcus. I never valued you as a person. I just saw you as the supporting character in my story, the background figure who existed to make my life easier or better. And I am so deeply, profoundly sorry. Not because my marriage is struggling, or because I'm in debt, or because my life didn't turn out the way I planned. I'm sorry because you're my brother, and I've spent 26 years treating you like you didn't matter, and you did matter. You do matter. And I'm ashamed of who I was. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hug her. Part of me wanted to leave. Part of me wanted to rage at her for taking 26 years to see what should have been obvious. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for the childhood we could have had. Sad for the relationship we'd missed. Sad for both of us, really, because she'd been as damaged by our parents' favoritism as I had, just in different ways. I don't know how to forgive everything, I finally said. I don't know if I can. I'm not asking you to, she said. I'm asking if we can start over. If we can try to build something real. Something that isn't based on Mom and Dad's version of who we are. That was 3 months ago. Since then, Megan and I have been meeting monthly. Sometimes more often. We're learning how to be siblings for the first time, building a relationship from scratch without our parents' distorted framework. Last month, she asked me about my job. Really asked, not politely inquired, but genuinely wanted to understand. I spent 2 hours explaining atmospheric dynamics, weather modeling, the technology we use at the station. Her eyes widened when I described the computational complexity of predicting severe weather. This is basically applied physics, she said, stunned. You're doing advanced physics every day and then explaining it so regular people can understand it. Yeah, I said. That's kind of the job. Captain Obvious, she muttered, shaking her head. God, that's so insulting. I'm so sorry. You didn't make up the nickname. No, but I used it. I laughed at it. I'm still sorry. Megan's marriage is struggling, but she and Derek are in counseling and trying. Their finances are slowly stabilizing, she's picked up additional clients, and they've created a realistic budget and debt repayment plan. She told me recently that the $80,000 wedding feels like a different lifetime now. We could have had a beautiful wedding for a quarter of that, she said. I was so caught up in the performance of it all. The appearance of a perfect life. I didn't realize I was building something on credit, literally and figuratively. She asked me about my apartment once, in a moment of vulnerability. Do you love that place? Is it everything you wanted it to be? Yeah, I said. It really is. I can watch storms roll in from 50 miles away. I can see the sunrise over the skyline. It's exactly where I'm supposed to be. She smiled, a real smile, not the performative one she used to wear. Good. I'm glad. You deserve that. It's strange, being seen by my sister for the first time at 30 years old. Strange and wonderful and occasionally heartbreaking. We're both in therapy, both doing the hard work of unpacking decades of dysfunction. Neither of us has a relationship with our parents right now, though Megan's contact with them has become increasingly limited as she's recognized the patterns that shaped both of us. Valerie at the station calls me Weather Wizard now, a replacement for the nickname I'd internalized for so long. It's silly, but it makes me smile. I still have that email from the viewer on my refrigerator. I've added a few more since then, notes from teachers, from parents, from people who took shelter because of my warnings. Evidence, I suppose, that what I do matters. That I'm not just stating the obvious about rain. The sun is coming up now. I can see it through my east-facing windows, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. There's a weak cold front coming through tomorrow, nothing severe, just a nice autumn storm. I'll be on air explaining it, helping people plan their days, keeping them safe and informed. It's not glamorous work. It's not the kind of thing that gets you ice sculptures at your wedding or featured in society pages. But it's real work, and it matters, and I'm good at it. And finally, after all these years, I'm surrounded by people who see that. Including, at last, my sister. For the first time in my life, I'm not looking for my family's approval. I'm not auditioning for a role I'll never get. I'm just being who I am, Doing what I love, and that's enough. It's more than enough. To everyone who commented on my original post, who sent me messages of support, who shared their own stories of scapegoating and family dysfunction, thank you. You helped me see what I couldn't see on my own. You helped me find Dr. Holbrook, establish boundaries, and start building a life where I'm valued for who I am rather than who my family decided I should be. If you're going through something similar, please know, you're not crazy. Your feelings are valid. Your work matters. And you deserve to be seen. Stay safe out there. And don't forget your umbrella tomorrow. There's a 70% chance of afternoon showers. Marcus, your friendly neighborhood meteorologist.